if you can share some of the salary insights about the pay that are generally being given to product managers in Germany or Europe.
For example, you could easily get...
I remember the last time I was interviewing for Meta. Before getting it selected, I was rejected by 10 other companies.
So for me, it was a very different kind of product management, which I might not have gone through initially. And so it was very interesting from that perspective because I like to try new things. The first question that he asked me was, what do you mean by REST APIs? And then thankfully, I so I'll just list.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sugat and I'm a product manager at Meta, and I create content related to interview experience, career and product management. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to check some of my previous videos where I have covered more than 50 plus companies, interview experiences and a lot of mock interviews. And in today's episode, we have Prachi, who has recently joined Wolt as a product manager. Welcome, Prachi.
Hi, thank you. Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Sugat, for having me on this podcast.
Awesome. We are very excited to speak with Prachi and to know her entire interview process and journey. Folks who are interested in transitioning and finding jobs outside India, this podcast will be for you because Prachi was able to find her job sitting in India and to a European company called Wolt. If you are not familiar with Wolt, Wolt is very similar to Zepto, Swiggy and other food tech startups in India. And folks, you might be very interested about knowing the entire interview experience of Prachi and how she was able to get a job outside India. Without any further ado, let's get started. Prachi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, I'm currently working at Wolt as a product lead. Wolt is essentially a subsidiary of DoorDash, and Sugat has already mentioned what they do. And before joining Wolt, I was in India. At Wolt office, I'm currently in Berlin, but in India, I was working with a startup which is an audio OTT space. So there, I was a product manager as well. And the startup is Pocket FM essentially, and they were into audio series similar to Netflix. I was looking at basically retention on their platform. Before Pocket FM, I was working with Microsoft for around 2 years. There, I was in the Stream team, which is video enterprise. In Stream, I was looking at search and discovery, etc. Before that, I was with Paytm. At Paytm, I was working with insurance broking, the product on the product side itself, and we built like a marketplace for insurance essentially. So that's how my product journey has been, and I've worked across companies of different sizes. Because like at Paytm, for example, I joined before IPO was happening. So like 1-2 years before IPO, Microsoft is again like a big tech. And then like Pocket FM was Series C at the time I joined. And here, Wolt, it's a listed company, but they're still in the transition from a middle tier to like bigger company. So they're still in that transition. So it's like it has been a very interesting journey for me across different products, across different company sizes. And I love that.
Great profile, I must say. I think you have a lot of good experience, a mix of both startup and enterprises. And yeah, really curious to know about your journey, this transition phase. How did you even start looking out for the job? So why don't you spend a few minutes talking about how did you start looking out for the job? What were your target companies? And definitely would love to hear how did you end up interviewing at Wolt?
Honestly, for me, it was not that I was looking for anything outside of India at the time. I joined Pocket FM, and I think it's a so I wanted to join a startup which is like in the initial phases, Series C, for example, or Series B would also have worked, and it was at a very interesting phase because like there was so much good things happening, and I really loved working there. I think it was December or January, I remember, and I was basically scrolling through LinkedIn, and then I saw a post of a senior of mine from like the same college. So he had posted around like something around Wolt that there's an opportunity, etc. And I like to ask people how like product management roles are, etc. And so like I kind of thought that what, it'll be interesting. Let me just do that, right? So and then like I reached out to my senior. So there was a call that was set up. So he kind of like set up a call that was like an hour long call, and then he discussed all my like my work experience, etc. And later on, I had a call, and then like he said that the work experience is fitting for the profile that we are looking for, probably. And then the HR reached out to me. They'd set up like interview calls for me, and then like I gave these interview calls. So there were almost around so there were around like 5 interviews that happened overall, and I got an offer. So that's how I went about it. Not that at that time I applied for anything. That's type of idea.
Amazing. I think folks, those of you are listening till now, I think Prachi called out a very important point about networking, which plays a very important role in the job startup. Generally, we just forget about leveraging our connections, seniors, mentors, and we just randomly go about applying the things and may not turn out to be that much successful. But what Prachi did was amazing. She made sure she reached out to a college senior who was already working in that company, tried understanding about the role profile, and then maybe got through a referral route, which made her, visibility among the recruiters way better than any other random candidate. So please try leveraging the similar process. It's very tiring, frustrating, but it's the best chance to get you through the shortlisting process. Can you also talk about also some of the other companies you were applying before we focus on the Volt interview process? Were there other companies also you were interviewing in, and how does that phase look like?
At the time I was applying at Wolt, I did not apply to any other company. I mean, like that of yeah. So that offer in itself is something that I mean, if you would have asked me in December or November that I would be in Berlin working at Wolt, I would not have like believed you, because for me I shifted to Bangalore, etc. as well. So for me it was like my friends were there, and I had this whole community and stuff like that. So it was an interesting phase, and I kind of like the work was also very nice, I would say. So from that perspective, so essentially at that time I did not apply to any company. Maybe like once I got the offer, I was just like looking at like different companies that I know for, but not before I got the offer.
Got it. So I think that's brilliant, right? It's very rare to hear this kind of examples when you applied to one company and you got selected. Because I remember the last time I was interviewing for Meta, before getting it selected, I was rejected by 10 other companies. So I thought there might be some similar things for you, but yeah, you are really an exceptional over here. Walk us through the entire journey about you getting that recruiter call and step by step process. What happened during the all the interview process, the kind of questions being asked, how did you went about answering it? So would love to hear in as detail as possible.
Basically, as I mentioned earlier, I had a discussion with my senior on LinkedIn, essentially, that what does product management look like, what does this role entail, etc. So we had a 1 hour call where I understood from him what the role is, and essentially like what would it look like if I kind of like started working there. And then there was a large part of the discussion which revolved around what have I worked on before. So my experience, and I think like he went very deep into my experience, I would say. I think the role entailed more around like ML models, etc. as well. So they wanted like somebody who had a lot of data experience, etc. So that happened, and then after the 1 hour call, when we had this long chat, he said that your experience kind of fits into the role that we are looking for, and hence probably we'll proceed with your profile, and somebody will reach out to you, HR, etc. So the HR reached out. So that was like the hiring manager call, and then the HR reached out, and the HR scheduled three calls. So they scheduled one call at a time, but there were 3 calls. So essentially the process is that there is a hiring manager call, then there are 3 calls which are which happen if your profile gets by the hiring manager, then 3 calls happen. And then
Got
once
it.
the 3 call happen, there is a CPO call. So you have to clear the 3 rounds. Only then after that, there is a CPO round, essentially.
Got it. So your senior was the hiring manager.
Correct.
Amazing. Okay, so that makes more sense because he might have posted the job on LinkedIn and you reached out to him or her, and then probably the call would have happened. So yeah, that's great to hear. And you might not know that was an interview sort of thing.
I did not. That is so true. So I thought that was I did not know that like call would happen in interview. I thought that it was like more or less a call where we are like I'm just trying to understand what the role is about, what does it entail, and then how like product management kind of operate there. Because for me, I have worked across digital products a lot. For example, I had worked across OTT platforms, the enterprise like Microsoft Stream video platform, etc. The whole, I think, food delivery and retail business, it's a little bit more operations focused as well in comparison to completely digital products. So that's like a difference between how the two operate. So for me, it was a very different kind of product management, which I might not have like gone through initially. And so it was very interesting from that perspective because I like to try new things. And so it was very interesting for me to, just think about, oh, how would like I work? So that's basically how it is. So I just thought that I'm just trying to understand how everything is, etc. And I did not know it was an interview call when that happened. And then
I mean, that's good, right? I mean, most of you didn't have to worry about or get into that pressure of interview mindset and normal conversations. And actually, that's the interview should happen, right? It should not be a way to judge someone. It's just about having normal conversation to know more about your experience. Cool. So let us know what happened. I think you got the call from the HR about your profile getting shortlisted, and you mentioned about a loop, 3 rounds back to back. Yeah, walk us through.
then I got a call, and then like the first round that I had was a tech round. And so in the tech round, I thought I hadn't actually prepared much, I would say. And the reason I hadn't prepared was I thought that, generally tech rounds, I know that Google asks tech questions, which are like actually tech questions. And now they've also changed their format. My point of view was that, they'll not ask me actually like tech questions. They'll ask me like questions which are more behavioral, etc. Surprisingly, he asked me tech questions. Was surprising. See, the first question that he asked me was, what do you mean by REST APIs? And then like, thankfully, I so I'll just list down the question that he asked, and then I can go into like how I thought about it. So the first question he asked was that, what do you mean by REST APIs? The second question he asked me was, how would you evaluate whether an ML model is good enough or not? And then the third question he asked me was like, like, I think what were the tech stack that you worked on initially before, like on the products that you worked on? I think like what was the model that you worked on while you're working at Microsoft and Surge, something like that. And then the last question that he asked was that, how do you? So that the last question was more like around behavioral. And the question was that how do you how do you react to any situations with, like, when you're um, talking to the tech team, if you have a conflict, how do you react to that situation, something like that. So those were like the key questions, and and thankfully I answered all the questions. I think the key to answer the questions, I feel, is that um you know where you stand, essentially, and just be very, I mean, there's no point of like faking anything, because
Correct.
you have to be honest in answering everything, and just like guide them through the thought process. I think that is very, very important, because they really want to understand how you think rather than what you really know, because like all of
Yeah.
this you can Google, right, while you're working.
Correct.
Just your thought process, how do you like approach a certain problem if you're faced with uncertainty, for example. I think that's the best way to deal with all these situations. So with respect to, for example, REST APIs, I knew kind of like what APIs are, wasn't very, very sure about REST APIs. So I just like guided through so I just mentioned it very clear upfront that, you know what, I might not know about REST APIs. I know a bit about APIs, but I'll guide you through the process that I'm thinking, and just like you can add your whatever you think is wrong or right, etc. You can add it. So that's how like I kind of approached all the tech problems. And so, for example, API, I just mentioned that, for example, if I'm having a phone call with like some other person, and then I have to connect with them, then like that, probably that phone call would be an API. And then like I went into deeper into that, and then there were questions around the data structure as well. How, like, what are what are the different storages, etc. And then like how do you, so there are cache, etc. So there were questions around that, and they were like they went into deeper into like all that. But I think I was able to answer that. And I don't think so I did not answer in, like I was able to answer all the questions, in fact, based on like the just like the thinking that, you know, you go in deeper into this, deeper into that, and then like this is where you, because like I kind of knew certain concepts previously. Not that like I kind of was on top of it. So I knew them since like way back. Because I just like to read on stuff, etc. So I just like knew things. Not that I am by the way, I'm not like a developer, or I was not a developer at all, ever. I'm a chemical engineer. So just saying, just putting it out there.
No, that's really helpful to set all this context, because I mean, I assume this role is for an AI product management role, because you worked on the machine learning, I mean, in the search in Microsoft, and then this role is also about search.
It's not exactly AI product management. It's basically like their ML models, etc. So like the basically, to a certain extent, you should know about like all that. But there are like data science scientists, etc. in our team, a couple of work. But like from a product perspective, you should know like how things work, etc.
Absolutely. And thanks a lot for calling that out, because a lot of time we had this blockage among ourselves that we are not eligible for this kind of roles. And your background from being a chemical engineer to really working so deep in tech is tremendous. And thanks a lot for inspiring folks. And after watching it, people would be very curious to open to this kind of roles as well, and not think blocker about anything. Kudos. Yeah, let's keep moving. I assume how was the feedback or
So okay, fine. So I'll just like move on to the next round. So this was the tech round. The next round that I had was the case round, the not product cases that happen. So that product case round, the question that I was asked was that, how do you design a smart table for a restaurant? So yeah, so the solution of this, I think like you could find at a lot of places. So I mean, like, just like find the find the solution. And it's a typical product sense question. So if like anybody would have prepared for product sense interviews, they would be easily able to answer the question, right? The next question that I was asked was, so um the interview round that usually used to happen was around 45 minutes or so. And then like there was time which was like 10 minutes or so in all the rounds, where they took the time to go through my CV as well. Like not CV exactly, but like what did I do, and you know, all that. So And then like this was the second round. The third round that happened was an analytical round. In the analytical round, I was asked that um, determine the daily pay of a Uber driver. So like, how do you? And then like I had to the estimate, the estimate part. So I had to select. So this was one part of the interview. The second part of the interview um was like around matrix. So so what would be the north star of like a product, um, and a product that you're, for example, Uber rides or Uber deliveries. Like what could be the north star of it if you were the product manager of it, etc. And then like what could be the other like different metrics that you could look at, like that. These were the two parts of the interview, and then of course like about the work that I have done, a little bit on that. But essentially, this was like how the whole interview went. And I think on estimation also you could like really find answers and on internet. So this is like how the whole interview went. Once the so after this whole discussion, there is a common team meeting that happens between all three panelists, and
Hmm.
then like as per my understanding, they kind of then rate the candidates in order of like which candidate you'll be more willing to like work with respect to like how the interview went, and so they give scores or something like that. And then the HR came back to me pretty like, so the whole process did not take a lot of time. So they, I think after my last interview happened, probably in within a week they came back saying that we would like your we have received the positive feedback from everybody else, and then we would like to schedule another interview with the CPO, even though the interview that happened with CPO was a bit late because he was not there at the time. So then like my interview happened with CPO, and with CPO the discussions were majorly around my work experience and like discussing one problem in real detail as to
Hmm.
how about it, and then how I went about solving it, and all of that. So that's majorly what happened. And then after the CPO interview, there was a final like confirmation that came in, and then negotiations happened, and all of that.
Amazing. Congratulations again for cracking the Wolt interview and sharing in such a depth manner about the entire interview process. I am often being asked, right, during the interviews, there is a time slot which is given to the candidates about, hey, do you have any question for me? Uh, can you suggest or can you share what were the kind of questions you used to ask to the interviewers during this interview process?
So I always ask questions because like I feel that asking questions is the best way to understand whether something is right for you or not. And also like that's just one part of it. The second part is that it also shows the interviewer that you are interested in the role that you are actually interviewing for, and you are curious enough to ask questions, and that is like what they're looking for. So with respect to the questions that I asked, I think I was like very curious about um the product, like the role in itself, which I was hired for. And then so these questions I asked majorly to the so I asked a couple of questions to hiring manager, then I asked a couple of questions to the so my questions actually depend on the person I'm actually talking to, right? So for example, with the hiring manager, I asked a couple of questions around the role that I was being hired for, and then how does that look like. With the tech guy, for example, I asked a couple of questions around yeah, around how the mechanics currently work between tech and product. For example, second, I asked a little bit on like um, a bit on tech stack as well, but like majorly like tech related questions. For example, with the CPO, I asked more from the company strategy perspective. Like, what do you think are the like? So Volt is already into food business. what do you think would be the next big bet for Volt, and how do you like think about like the 5-year vision, etc. So I think your questions should be more aligned with the person you're talking to, and I think that really helps. So have the way. So I did not do that, but like I would suggest, so, because like for me, I think I just think on the spot a lot of times. So, but like from preparing for the questions, I feel it's very like it's like really good to go through the company website in detail, or like company like whatever you get on the internet, and then just like and as you go through the things that are mentioned, etc., you already get like a lot of questions. Oh, why is this working right like this, or why like, right? And also there are some things that you don't like in your current firm and you want to like switch because of that. Then have those like just ask those questions so that you don't you don't actually feel like a certain way after you join. It's just like really good to clarify in advance.
Yep. Thanks a lot for sharing it to the wider audience. In the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned, Prachi, that if you asked me this question 3 months back, I wouldn't imagine myself in Wolt and Germany. What changed after the interview process that you had to make your mind to relocate outside of India?
As I told you, right? So I just like to try new things. And I think that um I think shifting to Germany or Berlin, it has it has been a very different experience, and this is the way I thought about it. So when I got the offer, um, um, so while I was like giving interviews, even I kind of had this at the back of my mind that I'll have to shift to Berlin now. And while I've worked in like multiple companies, I just feel that there is a lot of like professional learning that happens being in India, right? But then like there's a lot of personal learning that um kind of stagnates in India to a certain extent, because like in India you're surrounded by so many people, and you have your support system, you have everything in place. It's just like professionally you're so for me it was um like the decision was based on like multiple factors. So one was that it was a completely new industry for me, so that was exciting. And like um the even the like the stage of the company, for example, the industry, etc., it's not something that I had experienced previously, and so that for me this was like a different thing. That was the first thing. The second was that I just the point of like if you move abroad, you have to do like a lot of things by yourself. So it was just a whole learning experience that I just felt that would be like very, very different for me. And that is so I consulted like a lot of my friends. And so everybody told me that, you know what, if you move outside, even if you don't like it, you can always come back. But it's just about trying things, right? So you should not shy away from trying things which might seem to be difficult for you, for example.
It's been 2 years. I moved here in London, and those were the kind of thoughts I also had, right? I just want to try. I don't know what the future holds. I will go, I will try. I see how does this part of the world look like in terms of working, staying, exploring. So yeah, I think so far it's been good, amazing experience, and I hope you have also facing the same.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. We are moving towards the end of the podcast, but I have few final questions for you. If you can share some of the salary insights about the pay that are generally being given to product managers in Germany or Europe, and you want to share any pointers to the folks who want to also just understand about the finance part.
So I know that European salaries are not at par with US salaries. US salaries are like way higher. But in Europe, like so for like senior level PM, you can get so okay. This is like a tricky question because because I don't know. I mean, like a lot of people would be earning differently, etc. But basically, as per my understanding, there are salaries ranging from probably like base 60 or 70 to um, going up to like 120 or something. And then that is base, right? So for example, you could easily get 100, base euros, and then like stocks over it. So that could like amount to, I don't know, like 150, 160 euros. And that is like fine. I mean, like that in itself is like a good salary for, as per European standards. Because like in Europe, you don't like really get like a very high salary. So that's my perspective. But it depends from company to company. Um, yeah, I know Wolt pay in comparison to other companies in Berlin. That I know for sure.
Cool. Thanks a lot for sharing this. And final thing is, do you have any tips and suggestions for the folks watching this video who are also aspiring to work outside of India?
I can give like a very philosophical answer to this.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I think from my see, this is my perspective. I think like whatever you're working on right now, like you should know it, like really know it. Like you should like own it and be very good at it, because that is what is required for like moving outside, etc. People see that you've worked on great stuff, and then like they just like probably hire you based on that. My perspective with regards to giving advice is that I don't think so blindly applying A makes sense. You should definitely understand the role and talk to the person who's hiring, probably like hiring manager, etc. Having network is great. Like just find people. If you don't have a direct connect, just refer to like just reach out to people who have like a second connect or whatever. This is one thing. Um, the second is that what I've seen with other people when you're applying abroad is that it is good to have multiple options, because like I mean like options, when I say options, it just like means that you're not applying to different companies. If you actually want to move, like if that's your goal that you want to move abroad, then just like apply to multiple companies. The third is that have probably, I think, target the role where you also have an expertise. Um, that actually solves a lot of problems for you. Uh, because if you've worked on like certain things and the role actually matches your expertise, you have a very high chance of getting shortlisted. Because in companies outside of India, they do not, they'll actually look for a little bit more specialist profile than like generalist profile, I would say. And so like, and because like now product management is a little bit more mature than it used to be earlier, and so you could find product managers who have worked in a certain area. So I think like just target those roles as a P0 probably, and then like later on target like other roles, etc. So I think those could be like few of my suggestions. You'll find like probably, and I think this is cliche, but you'll find Indians in every company, in every product company now. So it might be like very easy for you to get like even referrals, etc.
No, well said, Prachi, and this are really thoughtful. Thank you again for being part of this channel and sharing your entire interview journey. Folks, whosoever wants to connect with Prachi, I will just share her LinkedIn profile in the channel description. And yeah, see you soon in any upcoming product interview videos. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.